welcome to Podband Pipecast, the premier pipe band podcast.
Good job. Welcome. We have a non-pipe band person on our show today for a very specific reason. This is Alex Randall, and she is a licensed physical therapist, and we thought we would do a special video episode that is also audio. We'll explain that in a minute, but focused on not hurting yourself, right?
Yes.
That's
good concept.
Imagine that. Imagine a world without band-related back pain. I mean,
Doesn't exist.
no.
We can help to prevent it. We'll do our best.
Okay.
Yes.
So this episode and possibly another 1 or 2 episodes, depending on how long this takes, will walk you through some common areas of reasons that your posture and such, when you hold your instrument and when you play and such, may be causing you pain or discomfort or just issues to your physical well-being. So we're going to bring on a bagpiper, and Alex is going to go to town talking about why their posture sucks. No. Generally in pipe bands, like we were saying, we tend to know that when you're performing, you need to stand up straight and you need to look professional, but things can happen, which Alex will get into in a bit. Do you want to say anything before we bring on the
absolutely. So I know I'm working with a group of professionals here. So what I'll do today is I'm going to lend some of my professionalized PT to your professionalized as performers. So we're going to work together on what you guys look at as far as setting up, as far as drum harnesses, things like that, to give us a little bit better picture of why you set the way you do and things that you can do to make sure you're in the best position so that you can play comfortably for a long time without suffering the next day.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right, let's go.
Bagpipes are kind of heavy. I don't know if you want to feel just how heavy
Kind of do,
the instrument is.
Yeah, that is.
And we basically hold that with one side of us, one arm, one side.
Right.
And that goes under our arm.
Okay. Probably should have done this before.
And you're like, oh.
That's okay. We'll kind of do as
all
we
things
go.
change now.
No, this is good. Okay. So you were saying that you have a couple different positions
Yeah.
that you hold in.
So first position, like when we're in a playing position or whatever,
Mhm.
we got the pipes up. Oh, sorry about that. Under our arm, like this, and we're basically holding all of it with our left side, our left arm.
Right.
And it's somewhat flexed like this, and then our right arm just comes around here and is fairly comfortable.
Mhm.
And so this is our playing position. Our feet, usually we prefer that we have our heels together,
Mhm.
reasonably close. We're standing upright. And as we teach our students, the more upright and the better your posture, the better you can breathe
Yes.
and take deep breaths. And so a lot of times we have some of our newer students that a lot of times will play with their shoulders like this, and you can even see it when they play, or they play a lot trying to blow strictly with their mouth and things like that, because we have to have constant pressure with our arm.
Right.
So this is constantly flexed. And a lot of times when I do performances at schools and stuff, I'll show the kids and I'll be like, watch my left arm. It's like a Popeye arm, it's just like really flexed and strong. And so that one has, a lot of pressure on it all the time.
Yeah.
So that's like our playing position. We've talked about sometimes we're at a stand at ease position with our pipes down. So we'll take our pipes down, we get them under our left arm, and we'll be standing here with our hands sort of clasped, and we're standing at ease. We can separate our feet and have our feet separated a little bit, about shoulder width or hip width or whatever, not too wide. And that will allow us to stand for a little bit of time. A lot of times performances, we have to stand there and wait till someone's talking or presenting or whatever. And so we're standing. Stand easy is a little bit more flexible in that we can, turn around and talk to the person next to us, or shift our weight from, side to side, or adjust ourselves, but we still stay in our little zone of where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So those are kind of our positions. We stand like hours at a time, at rehearsals, and anybody in the pipe band world knows we stand hours and hours and you're just on your feet. So, and you get used to it after a while, but initially it's hard for people to like,
yeah, to have
do
the
we ever sit
endurance.
down? No, we don't ever
Yeah.
sit down ever. So,
Yeah. Okay, well, can you do me a favor and assume playing position again? Now, you already hit on a lot of good things that I would normally talk about. You said about trying to stand upright, and you said for the reason of trying to maximize your breathing. And you're absolutely right. And you said about new students that they typically try to breathe a lot with their shoulders. And we actually use muscles in the neck and upper shoulder to try to help get more air into the lungs. So say you've been running a long distance, you'll see a lot of people who shoulders up and down, really rising. And so when you're playing for a long amount of time, exactly what you said, you want to make sure that you're in that relaxed position and utilizing the correct breathing muscles. So do you guys, for new students, do you ever go over like breathing exercises at all?
I've talked to them about it, but not a lot of, knowledge,
Okay.
from a knowledge-based point, other than saying, try to breathe from here, where you might see your abdomen, going out and in.
Yes.
But that's hard, for them to concept, get a concept.
It is, yeah. So try this for me. I'm just curious. Breathe like you would if you were playing. Okay. Can you do it without having the mouthpiece? What does that look like? Good. Okay. So it's something in PT that we actually call pursed lip breathing. And what that actually helps to do is, from an athletic perspective, it can actually help to regulate your breathing better, decrease your heart rate, but it also does exactly what you said about using your diaphragm. So what you're doing with your students of learning how to breathe appropriately, using that abdominal cue of breathing in and then slowly breathing out, you can actually feel your abdominal muscles tighten and help to regulate them. And that also helps with what we call belly breathing to, again, maximize that. So that's a great way to start. Other things that you'd want to pay attention to that, like I said, you already do because you've done this for so long. Go ahead, actually turn towards me. So what I notice that you're doing is you're keeping a really upright chest. Shoulders back is really, sorry, I'm getting in your way, is really important. So go ahead, do this for me. I'm going to have you kind of assume a bad posture. I want you to just kind of, round your shoulders forward. Yep. So we see that she loses her natural curve in her low back. Shoulders are forward. Very not conducive for good breathing. And also you can see how much of her weight in her shoulders comes forward, and it's going to affect her playing. So
Do not do this.
Do not do this. So we want to squeeze the shoulder blades not only together, but almost as if you're sliding your shoulder blades down your back a little bit. And a good way to think about that is then if you're going, bring your chest up. So for women, we like to use the example of essentially if you have a necklace on or a brooch, you want to show that off a little bit more. So to give you that upright posture. Can I move your hair a little bit?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So something else that you want to pay attention to, and these are all good things to pay attention to for anyone in the band, would be head position. So what we want to accomplish is to try to keep your head, your shoulder, and your hip all aligned. And this is actually a really common thing that we see for people who are at the computer all day. So this is a really good thing to notice, that what can happen is, I'm going to kind of move your head a little bit,
Sure.
is you can come into a forward head position. So stay looking up at the wall for me. But your head comes into that forward position. So what that does is it actually causes all these muscles right in the back of the head, right at the top of the neck, to really tighten. And it elongates all the muscles in the front of your neck. And what that can actually cause is not only neck pain, but it can cause these headaches that start right at the back of your head and start to come up the sides of your head. You've had those before, it sounds like. You just nodded.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, and they're not fun. So this is one of the big things, especially if you're playing for a long time, to be really aware of that head position. So what I like is to do, can I have you hold this for a sec? There. Is to do something called a chin tuck. So you want to, I'm going to exaggerate and be in that bad position. You want to be able to bring your head back, almost like making a double chin. That's what I like to tell people. Not tucking the chin down necessarily, keeping it level. So if you think of your head, if you think of your chin being straight, you don't want it to tip down, you want it to stay back. So it's something really helpful for when you've been playing for a long time to say, okay, I need to do just a quick check. You want to check the head position and check the shoulder position. And then also something that we touched on was breathing using those abdominal muscles. that's something to keep an eye on if you're having that tension. So as a piper, that's something really easy that you're always doing, but something that for a tenor, a bass, a snare, something that will help to engage those muscles and help to reduce low back pain.
Yeah, a lot of times when we're standing for so long too, like at rehearsal, I'll be like, oh, we get one of these in the shoulder too, because you've been holding this up, and I don't know, like I said, how many pounds exactly, but you get tired of just one side bearing all the weight.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just, it's the same amount of weight, but the longer that your muscles have to work and go through that endurance, it does feel that bag becomes heavier and heavier. So making sure that when you're in that correct position, your muscles are having to do the least amount of work possible. Perfect.
I've literally never thought about breathing while I play because I'm not a bagpiper.
Right. Still really important. And especially like if you guys are doing a really long set or if you're walking, those are things that you want to pay attention to. Because I'm sure how you start, like say that you're in a parade, when you start versus when you finish, you're definitely holding yourself differently.
Yeah.
So it's good, like in between, how long are songs typically? If you had to guess.
Well, like if we play a medley set, for example, it's between 3 and 5 minutes of playing, and it doesn't seem like that sounds like very long, but when you're in the middle of it, especially if you've done a bunch of it, like to rehearse it, it's like forever.
Yeah. So when
it's like so long.
Yeah. So when you get to those breaks in between, even if it's just for that second, just say to yourself, okay, let's do a quick check. How am I holding myself? What can I adjust? And it's really just forming that habit. I tell the same thing to people who are in the same position for work. A lot of times, like I said, a lot of people are at the computer. They need to develop a system of, okay, let's find like a quick time for me to check how I'm holding myself to make things better. So same thing.
Cool.
Perfect.
All right. Do you have any questions for Alex?
Any good stretches that would be good? Do we have anything
that's coming up?
Oh, that's coming in another segment. Okay, yes. Cool.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, we'll bring on a snare drummer, and we'll do the same thing with the posture position. Some of the things are going to be very similar, like you said, but some things regarding different drum harnesses and different, arm positions and things will be a little bit different. And then we will do a bass drum and tenor drum, and these may happen to be other episodes too, so if you don't hear something in this episode, it's coming, don't worry. And we'll also show you some exercises and stretches that you can do. We are doing this as a video special for anyone who would like to watch on YouTube. Normally we provide our episodes for our subscribers, video episodes on patreon.com/podbandpipecast if you're a paid subscriber there. But because this is so important, we figured we'd do this as a video for everyone, but there will be some bonus content on Patreon if you want to do some stretches with us and some like more routine stuff that can kind of be additional supplemental material. So, yeah. Let's bring on our snare drummer next. Okay, so now we have our snare drummer here. This is Cody Nunez. He's our drum sergeant, and he's going to demonstrate snare drumming, and hopefully he has good posture. We'll find out.
Thanks, Kaylee. Yeah. So, like you just heard about the pipes, we also have our own starting positions and typical positions you'll find us in while we're playing. Normally, when we're at attention, we've got our heels together. There's nothing here preventing me from doing that, as far as just being at attention. Hands together, usually just like, sticks together, close enough to your body. From there, then when we go to play, usually out here, we were just talking on some variations between our harnesses that we have. We've got 2 different models basically that we're playing with. Both are Randall May is the manufacturer. Got both the Kilpatrick, and then this one I believe is like an ABS, but I'm not really sure what the model is. But there are some like nuances we'll kind of look into. As far as snare goes, we don't play any slings in our core anymore. So from there, usually what I tell beginners is when we're playing, standing at attention or playing, we got to keep a nice tight core as far as, abs and back, shoulders pulled back. Our arms and hands need to be able to move freely, nice and loose. We don't want to be real rigid playing. It's not our style, but our core typically is what needs to stay tight. There is some movement that we might have like during play, like at times you'll see the lead like I'll kind of dip down a little bit and be looking down the core, but really from there, not much. Let's see what else. So for stand at ease, same with the snare drum, feet apart. Usually from there we have our sticks on one side, hand on the drum. What else do we want to cover? I guess as far as typical movements. If we're going to be standing for a long period of time, we do have an advantage of this. We usually are able to set our drums down. So typically, if the drum major doesn't call off like a stand at easy or stand easy, then usually we'll listen for like a hey, drums down or dismount, and then from there we'll just drop our drum and then just stand and wait for further instructions.
It's a lot more comfortable that way.
Yeah. Right.
Show me this. If you could pick that up again for me, Cody. Turn towards Kaylee, and then I want you to kind of simulate how high are your legs going when you're in parade.
So if we're marching, like basically just enough to get our feet off the ground, because my knees will kind of clash here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I guess we didn't go over that when we had bagpipes.
Marking time.
But yeah, so when you're marching in place, you're marking time, or when you're marching forward, you're just marching. And I believe there's some drum majors that I know are going to watch this that can correct me if this is wrong. But I've heard various things on the angle that your legs should make.
Okay.
I believe it's kind of like 45 degrees. But with the snare drum, obviously, you can't really get that.
You're a little more limited, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Something while you're in this position, actually, we'll probably keep you here for a little bit. Something that we were already talking about before was with the plate on the front, you want to make sure that that's above your hip bone. It's something that in PT we call your ASIS. It's just essentially a landmark on your pelvic bone. Otherwise, it affects how well you're able to march, and it's also putting pressure that does not need to be on that bone that can end up causing, if you would march for a long enough amount of time, it would actually cause some reduction in the skin, something that would start to lead to an ulcer. If you were playing long enough to cause an ulcer, we'd be having another problem. Since you're in this position, like you said, your brace supports you really well as long as it's fitted correctly. What I like for you, because you were saying, Cody, about how this isn't the typical one that people use, that they typically use the one that's a little bit closer.
Yeah.
What I like for you, and you already said this a little bit, is because you're so tall and you're long-limbed, that you feel more comfortable. And here's what I'd see. I'm going to move your arm a little bit.
Yeah.
If you had this closer to you, that would actually cause your arm to come back. And so something that we talked about when we were talking to our piper was you want to stay in that good alignment. That also includes looking at the elbow. So you can see here that he's already out of that natural anatomical position, and something that would be really uncomfortably playing for a long time, and something that I would worry about would lead to like tennis elbow, which would be like an epicondylitis. So go ahead and put your elbow back into that good position. So we can already see that's more comfortable for him. So for someone who's built a little bit more differently, that drum being closer might allow you to be in that better position already. Let's see, other things I'd want to look at. You talked a little bit about your abdominal engagement. That's really important, and something, and I have a feeling this will be a little bit more in play when we talk about the bass drum, is you want to make sure, I'm just going to put a hand on your back here, you want to make sure that you're keeping your lumbar spine in a neutral position. So what we're trying to avoid is having your back kind of in a tilted and arched position. Otherwise, that can actually limit how the joints in the low back move, and can lead to, if you already have some onset of arthritis, it can lead to an aggravation of that, which is not what we're looking for in the middle of a set. So something you want to be really aware of is that abdominal position. So something that we talked about with Diane, our piper, was using that deep breathing to assist you. So try this for me, Cody. You can relax your arms. I want you to take a big deep breath in through your nose, and I want you to breathe out like you're blowing out a candle. Good. One more time, and I want you to do a slow and long breathe out. Good. As you're doing that, right as you get to the end of your breath, can you feel those abdominal muscles tightening up a little bit?
Yeah.
That's a good way to check that you're engaging those appropriately. So again, when you've been marching for a long time or standing for a long time, using that as a technique to make sure your abdominal muscles are engaged. What that actually does, by tightening those muscles, it actually is helping you to bring that back into a more neutral position. So that's something that we're going to go over a little bit more in our exercises in one of our next episodes, but it's something that you want to start paying attention to right now. So, like we pointed out, we're looking at head position, really good. I'm looking at the bone right behind the ear. It's in line with his shoulder and in alignment with his hip. So he's really in a good set position already. And I think some of that is facilitated by the
Harness.
thank you. I forgot what it was called. I was like brace, but it's not a brace. By the harness, which is good. But again, when you're playing for a long amount of time, you can start to see the shoulders roll forward. You can start to see the back getting a little bit more arched just from not engaging those muscles appropriately. So all things that you want to pay attention to. Cool.
Do you have any questions as a drummer for Alex?
Not specifically I can think of. I mean, I guess the biggest thing is like how to teach that to somebody who, you know, a lot of it's just kind of through the years of playing, you find out what hurts you and what doesn't hurt you.
Yeah. And like we talked about, part of it is finding that comfort. So I'm sure like you use that brace, you tried it maybe a couple times, like, this just isn't for me. Harness, not brace.
Yeah.
Thank you. So part of it is making sure that something is comfortable for you. Since you instruct and you're helping students that are just learning, those are things that you can look for. So maybe we can put together a couple like a checklist, almost a quick guide of, okay, here's what I should be looking for my student to be set up appropriately, but then also have that wiggle room of saying, okay, what's comfortable for you, and making sure that when you are trying out a new piece of equipment, don't have them play for hours on end. Have them start out in short bouts and figure it out and problem solve.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Do we want to have you try putting on the other harness and we can see the difference between how far back it sits,
Sure.
maybe?
Yeah, let's do that. Also, no joke, these are heavy. As a non-band member who's never picked up a drum before, they're heavy, and so you want to make sure that you have the drum at an appropriate height for you, and that harness is fitting appropriately. No, you're all good. Just getting it fitted. But that harness is fitting appropriately. Otherwise, you're asking your body to do a lot more work than what it needs to. So it's almost like I'm a hiker, so I like to go outside, and I've noticed that if I have a backpack that's not fitting appropriately, I'm in pain later. I'm much more sore versus if I'm using things like my straps are at the right level. If I am using the strap for the hips, those things really assist a lot more. So you want to make sure that you're using your body to its best advantage and not wearing it out more quickly. So go ahead, turn sideways again. Yeah.
So I'll point out this is kind of a setup issue for me. Like I'm built a little bit differently, you know. I mean, everyone's built a little bit differently than each other, right? This is an example that I feel right off the bat on these harnesses where it kind of pinches up here. And a lot of times the fix that we have for it is you just bend it to make it fit. So it pivots here, but then close these up, these shoulder straps. But the difference is, if you want to hand me that harness, I'll show you one of the main differences. Is in this back piece we call the whale tail. Is in the back of this harness that I have on right now, it just pivots this way. This one is nice because it moves up and down and pivots. So when you go to put the drum on, usually I reach back and I just pop this up, and then it causes like it to pinch and fit really tight. So whereas this one, here, I'll hand this back to you off camera there. This one doesn't fit me as tight, and it usually ends up putting the weight on the back of my shoulders and then pinching here in the front.
Yeah. You can see just ergonomically, you're just not,
Yeah.
you're not comfortable. I can see that, and you're just not set up well for a long amount of time. So that really is cool.
Yeah, and then I guess here it's not too bad, but I feel like it's back.
Yeah. And I can see it just from doing this a lot. You can see that you're not in as much of a comfortable position. So.
Yeah. But we've got these two separate models of harness, and for some people who are more maybe shorter, this one works great. For me, being taller, I was like, this is great. You know?
Right. So
feel the difference.
Yeah, so that's why, when you have someone starting out, have them try a couple different things to get used to them and see what works best for them.
Yeah, awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that. Yeah, it's kind of nice that there's such a wide range now of harnesses that you can choose from. Different manufacturers make different things, and people always ask me that a lot about drumming too. What do you use for harness or sling? What is best? And I'm like, you gotta try a few things because everyone's different.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely. Well,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode. We hope you found that informative. Bye. We'll be back next week with more bass and tenor, and we'll talk about shoes, and we'll do some stretches and different things. So yeah. See ya. Bye.
Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed this show, then support us on Patreon for exclusive content as well as the video of us recording this. We'll have special exercises we'll be writing as well as tips and tricks with tenor drumming and other instruments to come. Subscribe to us on YouTube for some tenor tutorials and possibly other tutorials later on. And like us on Facebook at Podband Podcast.